I hope you enjoy the session, and without further delay, I'd like to hand it over to our featured presenter, recruiting and corporate hiring consultant, Gary O'Neill. Gary, you now have the floor.
Great, Mayan. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Effective Job Search Strategies. My name is Gary O'Neill, and I am here in the next little while to share with you as much as I possibly can about how to run an effective job search. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, so you kind of understand the perspective that I come from, is that well, going way back, I started my career as a software engineer at NASA, and then I joined a company as director of professional services and ran a team of almost 2,000 IT professionals. We did a lot of hiring. And during that period of time and that period of growth is where I really learned and began to understand how companies hire. Following that, for about the last 19 years, I've run recruiting teams for companies as large as Microsoft and Dell. I've outsourced recruiting teams. I've been inside of probably 350 companies in some meaningful, significant way as a hiring consultant, director of recruiting, and run recruiting teams as large as 35. So I've seen it from a lot of different perspectives. So there's no single one way that any single company hires, but if we can essentially find the common patterns in all of it, then we can shift the odds in our favor so that as we go about executing our own job search, that things will go a lot better for us. So that's kind of the perspective that I take. The short version is I make my living because people get hired. And so I'm gonna, if I was executing a job search and looking for my next great opportunity, this is the stuff that I would do. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. So we're here to talk about getting hired, obviously, and it's the great news is that job search and getting hired is a skill, and it's something that everyone can learn. I get it that most people don't do it a whole lot in their life, and where does anybody go to learn that? Well, you go right here. So let's talk about getting hired, and I suspect that for some of you, at least some of the time, people tell me that there it is. Feels kind of like this, that you're on the outside looking in, right? You apply for jobs, you don't hear anything back. You go on interviews, you don't hear anything back. There's all kinds of things. You wonder what the heck is going on. I'm here to take you on the inside, kind of take you behind the scenes, and hopefully give you some points of view, some things to think about that will help you better understand exactly how to approach your job search, because the notion is that it's a lot easier to win if you know how to play the game. So I'm going to teach you how to play the game. And I get it, it's not a game, right? It's well, maybe it is. Certainly serious chess games or NFL games. I mean, it's a serious game, but you get it, right? It's easier to win if you know how to play the game. So let's start with this. What do all people who get hired have in common? Because the thought is that if we knew what it is that all people who get hired have in common, well, in terms of what they do or something about that, let's do that, right? Because let's do that. That sounds like a great idea.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if you're trying to advance anything because it's still stuck on the
I
first.
am.
There
Yeah,
you go.
thank you. I'm so sorry. You know what, y'all missed some cool pictures. So, let me show you. We're here to talk about getting hired. You're on the outside looking in, right? I thought that picture was kind of funny. It was worth going back to. Easier to win if you know how to play the game. There's the chess game. So here we are. We're up to speed. So
Awesome.
yeah. So what do all people who get hired have in common? And if you wouldn't mind, over in your little question area or text area or whatever it is over there that you can type in, type some stuff. I want to know. And Mayan, if you wouldn't mind helping me, because I don't know that I can see that.
Sure.
Maybe you can tell me some of the stuff. So what is it that all the people who have who get hired have in common, right? What is it actually? If you look at the handout, you could cheat. Right, you could cheat.
We
You could
have
jump ahead a slide.
confidence. Someone
Yeah,
wrote in confidence.
right.
Knowing someone.
Knowing someone. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Know how to sell themselves. That they are available. That they know how to get to the front of the line.
There you go. So the answer is that, people tell me all kinds of stuff, like it's about their resume or they know someone, and all of those things are super helpful, right? A great resume, super helpful. Doing a great job in an interview, super helpful. Having a network and having a friend, right? Or getting introduced and knowing what you're doing and being, all of those things are helpful. But I know people with horrible resumes who get hired, people with flop sweats in interviews who get hired, people who don't know a soul who get hired. All of those things. And the only thing that I've ever been able to figure out that everyone has in common is that they get to the front of the line. I mean, that's it. And what I mean by get to the front of the line is have a conversation with the hiring manager, which, by the way, isn't a job title. Hiring manager, you probably know, but it's essentially the person or persons. Usually it comes down to one person who's going to make the decision as to whether or not you get an offer or not. So in some sense, the whole notion is that if the thing that everyone who gets hired has in common is to get to the front of the line, then we should do that, right? We should focus on that. So let's talk about that a little bit. And by the way, that is going to be the whole underlying concept of this particular session, which is telling you and teaching you and showing you and all what I would do to get to the front of the line, because I do know how the game is played. So let's go do it. Let's go to the next line. So here's the thing. We're going to start by talking about open jobs. And what I mean by open jobs is the ones that are posted, right? Or there's the help wanted sign, or there's a job fair, right? I mean, it's the thing where you know that that company is hiring. There's an open job somewhere. If you go to open, Indeed, everything that's there is an open job, right? And here's the thing. If all the action and where you get hired is at the front of the line, well, when you apply for a job online or when you apply for anywhere, where are you? Are you at the front of the line or do you apply be at the back of the line, right? And usually you don't even know how long the line is. And what I can tell you is that I forget what the numbers are now, but the average job out on Indeed gets, I don't know, 200 and some odd applicants. And then you have like the Zip recruiters of the world who they even advertise on the radio sometimes, 800 applicants, right? It's insane. So to get to the front of the line, when you apply for a job, you're applying at the end and you need to, and you got to have everybody else in front of you in the line essentially fail to even get to the front of the line. So no wonder it's challenging. But the thing that I can tell you is that there are some things you can do, even at the level of applying for a job, to get yourself to the front of the line. So let's start with this. What can we assume about a job that is open and posted online? What assumptions can we make about that job or about that company or what have you? And if you wouldn't mind typing a few things, let me know what they are on my end. But what can we assume about a job that's online and posted?
Give everyone a minute or two to just type in some answers.
Sure.
One came in that they are fishing.
They're fishing, right?
Mhm.
Might be, we can assume that they're fishing. All right. What else can we assume?
Requires very little skill.
Hmm.
Everyone's looking at it.
Right.
They are seeking all options to recruit. They need the best fit for the company. Other
Yeah.
people are applying.
Right.
They are just looking to have tons of people in the corporate pipeline.
Right.
Oh, I like this one. Looking for a diamond in the rough.
Ah, yeah. Always looking for a
Another
diamond in the
one,
rough.
they may need or be in search of collecting resumes for future positions.
Right. Okay, cool. By the way, that's a common misconception about the collecting resumes and stuff like that. It really hardly ever happens. We don't have time to do that. And by the way, all the people who apply for a job and the person who doesn't get hired, rarely does anybody go back and look through that set anyway. So the notion of collecting resumes and stuff like that, yeah, it really doesn't happen. I think the reason why people believe that is because when you apply for a lot of stuff and you don't hear back, the assumption must be they're just collecting resumes. Really, nobody's doing that. And a big reason why is, check this out. I want to show you something. All right, let me show you something. I'm going to demonstrate some of these things to you along the way. But what I'm going to do is see this tool right here called LinkedIn. This is my resume database, right? I don't need to collect them. They're all right here. 98% of all hires I've been associated with in the last 5 years or so begin and end because of people that we find and source through LinkedIn. So it's critical. Join us for effective job search strategies, but that's the database. So we're rarely collecting. That doesn't happen a lot. Here's the deal. So my suggestion to you is that the only assumption that's helpful, because what's going on when you see a job that's posted is everything, everything. So sometimes what we're assuming is their hair is on fire, they really need to hire somebody, and it's all real and it's moving fast. Another one is they already know who they're going to hire. They're going to do an internal promotion, but because of corporate guidance and stuff like that, they have to post the job, right? Or the job got posted, it was a total accident. I mean, everything happens. But the only helpful assumption that we can make is that there is a hiring manager behind that job somewhere who really, really, really needs your help. And so if we strip everything else away, right, all the other assumptions that you might have thrown out there, let's assume that there's a person out there who needs your help. So here's what I can tell you. So I'm working on a couple of my team is working a couple of machine learning engineer positions for a client. It's really challenging, right? It's really challenging. We're trying to hire 4 of them, and we're working on it all the time. So what happens is there is a hiring manager behind the scenes who really needs people's help. And he's basically counting on my team to not only find people, but to work it through, and he's going to have interviews. What would happen, you think, if somebody who was a machine learning engineer reached out to, his name's Jared. What if someone reached out to Jared directly right now while we're in the middle of this search? What would happen if somebody reached out to Jared because they found him on LinkedIn or something like that? I'm just curious. What do you think would happen? What if somebody emailed them? What would happen? What would Jared do? What do you think? Type something in there. Maybe Mayan, you can help me out with that.
Someone said he would get an interview. Someone said, come in to see me. That might be a response.
Yeah.
He would take
Right?
a look.
Yeah. So from my perspective as the head of recruiting that's responsible for that happening, now what Jared would do is Jared would say, hey, Gary, this person reached out to me directly. Would you, here, take this. Would you go figure it out? Right? That's what Jared would do. But what would happen now, and I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. So as the head of recruiting that's responsible for all the recruiting at this company, and one of my main hiring managers just sent me somebody, I mean, do you think that gets my attention? Yeah, it gets my attention. Other things that could happen when that happens. So bottom line, I'll move on. We'll talk about this later, but the bottom line is when you see a job that's posted online, the thing that I want you to think about is the person who's on the other end of that who really needs your help. There's a person who really needs your help. All right. So let's work with that. So now here's the deal. So that leads us to this point, which is it really matters how you find and how you apply for jobs online. It matters a lot. And let me show you why it matters, right? Why it matters so much. And what I'm here to do is our focus is how do we get to the front of the line as quickly and effectively as we can? So even when you see a job that's posted online, let me show you how you can get to the front of the line. So I'm going to drop over into my web browser. Here it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Indeed, right? And here's one, Network Systems Administrator at IT Matters, right? So if this was a job that made sense, right, that that you thought you could do and all that kind of stuff is something that's on your career path, then you would click here, right? Okay. So here's what you probably don't know is that when you click on Apply Now, right? I'm bringing up my PowerPoint presentation again. What happens after you apply? I mean, what happens? I mean, we just clicked that on Indeed. What happens now? Do you know? I mean, what do you think? So, yeah, maybe you can help me with this with my answer. We'll do this for just a little bit at the beginning, but I want to kind of get things rolling. What
Sure.
happens now?
Someone said just goes to their website.
Okay.
Some said someone gets a form of an email, perhaps.
Yeah. Right.
Let's see, it goes to the ATS.
All right. All right, cool. So that actually is great answers because it gets me right to my point. This one right here, this is the apply now button that actually is going to apply through Indeed. And let me show you what happens on the receiving end. So this version of it, what happens is that an email is sent, and I'm going to search my email. We don't post jobs very often, so you're going to see that this stuff is old. I really am not a fan of posting jobs, but most jobs are never posted, by the way. You do know that, right? Most jobs are never posted. But check this out. So I get an email message, and what I'm going to do is just scroll down here to the bottom, and I get this resume that's attached like this. Now notice how this resume looks. Like, notice it, how it looks, because I'm going to show you another one that comes through from Indeed, right? Notice how it looks. Also notice the email address. They changed it to Indeed Mail. I'm sure that that's not Charles' email address, but it changed it to Indeed Mail. Did you know that it does that? The other thing that it does is, let's go to the next one down. Yeah, so you notice, see how it looks similar, right? Somehow Indeed thinks that we want that, which we really don't. Here's another one. Oh, hack this one all up. Junius Thompson, if you really see this person's background, there's a lot more to it than this, so it kind of just hacked it all up, right? So the first thing that happens when you apply through Indeed or Monster or Career Builder or any of those kinds of things, if you apply through their tool, it reformats your resume, it changes your contact information. Sometimes it'll obscure or remove your phone number, and it almost always changes it to an email address. And then, you know, what we really operate out of is our applicant tracking system. So this is the applicant tracking system for my company. Here's the machine learning scientist role that I was talking about. And see, I've got everybody who's in here at all the different stages and the rest. So this is where we spend our day working. So what happens when this email comes in is someone, not me, but you know, someone on my team who's doing sourcing is what it's called, will come in here, they'll open this and they'll go, you know, and what's going to happen when they say no is this: archive that message and on to the next one. So it never even makes it into the applicant tracking system at that point. Now, the other thing though that's going on is that if I've got this many people going on, I have a lot of things that are happening with a particular role. Honestly, what happens is somebody just ignores these. They don't open them at all, right? Because it's so much easier and faster to work out of this. The hiring managers are here and everything else. And so, you know, when you apply for a job online through a job board and it goes through the job boards kind of thing, then it's going to go into somebody's email generally, and they're going to get this thing like that. And it's the last resort that they go to. Because to get this into my applicant tracking system, check this out. Here's what I got to do. I got to download this thing, right? And now that I download it, I want to do that. And then I got to go over here and I got to go into candidates and I got to go, come on, I got to go add candidates, right? I got to wait. Okay, I'm just not doing that. And neither is anybody else on our team because we got way too many people to deal with. So just know that that's what happens, right? Now, sometimes you'll find ones, let's just go look. Some apply now, that's going to go through Indeed. Bridgefront Capital, apply now, that's going to go through Indeed. That's going to go through Indeed. Apply on company site, ding, 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 ding. So what happens is when you apply on the company site, it goes straight into, either if they have one, it's going to go straight into the applicant tracking system or straight into somebody's hands. And so this is always a better route if you had the choice. Always, 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 always. And so here's the thing. So if you happen to find a job that happens to be posted online and you get a apply now kind of thing, right? Here's what you can do. This one's for Nobility. Let's see if we can find Nobility, Nobility. I went there a while ago. I couldn't find. There it is. Oh, no wonder. I put in nobility.com. It's nobility.org. They probably ought to buy the .com. It's probably somebody owns it. So we're going to go down here and we're going to see whether or not they have. Where is it? Might not be here. They may not have one. We're not going to look too long, but we're looking for the volunteer team. Looks like they don't have one online. But what you want to do is when you see a job that's posted online, the first thing that you want to do is see if you can't apply directly, right? Apply directly. not through one of these systems, because this is the path of last resort for lots of companies. Now, that's not to say all the time. I mean, sometimes it's going to somebody's email, they're right on it, they're reading them all and all that kind of stuff. But the safe assumption is it's going into somebody's email box who's in HR. They're busy doing other kinds of things. They're a coordinator. They've already got candidates who are in consideration, right? They're already talking to people. It's never going to make it into their application, their applicant tracking system. Nobody's ever going to go double check that administrator. It's Friday. It's time for him to get off, right? He's already looked at 300 resumes today. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And what he can do is like select all, select all, mark as read, archive, right? And there you went. So that's the first thing that I want to tell you about, is that it really does matter how you apply. The other thing I'd like you to understand when you apply, let me take you into another applicant tracking system. The other thing that's important for you to understand when you apply is that these job boards, especially ZipRecruiter, but Indeed, I can do it too, which is they have these automated features to help you find the best candidate, which all they're really doing is not just keyword, they're word matching between the resume and what am I thinking? Between your resume and the job description. And so what happens is you end up with this ranking that takes place. Let's go into this one and see if I can't show you that. So this ranking takes place. Here it is, 2.9, 5.6, and this is out of a 10-point scale, right? And so a lot of companies that have a lot of applicants, by the way, I know people who work for companies where they're recruiters and they're working 35 positions and there's 200 people applied for each one, right? So that's 7,000 people. They can't possibly make their way through it. And so what happens is that companies will turn on this scoring system. It'll compare the words in your resume to the words that are on the job description, and it will basically rank you based upon that. Now, the theory is that the better the words match, the better the candidate. Well, it's totally not true, because what happens is that somebody has HR in their resume, but the job description says human resources. They say the job description says global, the resume says international, and there's a really low match. So, but the reason why companies do that, it doesn't really help them make a better hires. What it does is it takes a human being who has 7,000 resumes coming at them and gives them a fighting chance. So here's the other thing with regard to applying for a job online in terms of how it works, which is it's really important to make the words in your resume match the words that are in the job description, because if they're using one of those systems, then it makes a big difference as to whether anybody's going to pay any attention to you whatsoever. So the short version of how you can do that is take this right here, take all of that, everything in the job description, copy it, open your resume, paste it at the bottom of it, get rid of the these and the hours and the rest. You can have something down at the bottom that says keywords, just leave that down there. If you put your contact information at the top of the job description and sent that over, you would get a near 100% match. People would think you're insane and you wouldn't get an interview. But my point is, it really does matter, right? It really does matter. Now, if you have your resume done right, and join us for Resumes That Rock, it shouldn't take you more than 5 or 10 minutes to do that exercise. You don't have to rewrite it. What you got to do is, it's about getting matched, because all you need is somebody to look at it. And so if you take the words that are in the resume, you put them down at the very bottom of your resume, do where you can to change a couple of words, change HR to human resources or what have you, then all that we're really trying to do is to work the system so that when you are in their applicant tracking system, you'll be at the top of the list. The top of the list is the front of the line, and you did it by essentially putting those words in your resume. By the time somebody gets down to the bottom of your resume, they're probably not going to ever get down there. They're going to quit reading it earlier anyway. And so if one of the keywords is like Microsoft, then put Microsoft down at the bottom 5 times, because these algorithms are kind of dumb. Most of the algorithms on these tools, if you have the word Microsoft in your resume 10 times and somebody else has it 5 times, you come up higher in the results, right? It's getting a little bit more sophisticated than that, but that's what goes on. So that's what happens after you apply. The other thing to think about when you apply for a job is that very often it's going into not the hiring manager, it's very often going into the hands of, or the email of, or the system of somebody who doesn't really necessarily understand the job. And you're in a line with a lot of people, all right, a lot of people, but you can do a better job of it by 1, applying directly, and 2, by making sure that your resume has the not just keywords, has the same words that the job description does, right? So that's optimize your keyword matching. It's really a big deal. Just by doing that, you know, I could sometimes, I mean, I've experimented with in the applicant tracking systems with the clients that I use. I mean, we can go from essentially, a lot of companies will have, if it's not this high of a match or not, they automatically get a rejection notice, right? So we can go from like bottom 20% to top 10% just by, you know, copying and pasting the job description down at the bottom, getting rid of the rest of the stuff and doing that. So it's really important, right? More important than you think. All right. Here's the things that make sense. How are we doing, Maya? Questions, comments, anything? Is that helpful to people? Right? You get it? You see what's going
Yeah,
on?
we had a couple questions come in.
Okay, cool.
Just relating back to what you were talking about, copy pasting and putting some of those keywords into your resume.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on putting it in white 2-point font at the bottom of the resume so it won't show up, it still scores? What are your
I,
thoughts
I,
on that?
yeah, I wouldn't do it. And the reason why I wouldn't do it is one, by the time they get to the bottom of your resume, they've already decided that they like you. You know, if you want to call, instead of hiding it, here's the deal, right? I mean, covering things up is probably not usually the best idea. And the people, those of us who do what we do professionally, I mean, we see every trick in the book and it creates integrity problems is really what it does. So in fact, if it were me, I wouldn't hide it. I would probably do just the opposite. If you wanted to, down at the bottom, you could say, I copied and pasted words from the job description, so I'd come up higher in search results. See, I'm a problem solver and I do what it takes to get the job done. I'd probably do that. So I think you'd be better off by highlighting the fact that you did it and not trying to hide it. By the way, on your resume, put months on your dates. If I see that you just have years and you say, you know, 2014 through 2016, my assumption is you were there just for a year, right? So you started December the 31st, right? And what I know is when you don't put months on your dates, most of the time there's things that are missing, there's gaps, there's things you aren't proud of that you don't want me to see. Same thing with functional style resumes instead of chronological style resumes. Usually you're hiding something, right? And so those of us who do what we do for a living, I mean, we know it all. So yeah, anything you think you're going to do to change or hide or something like that, just don't do those things, right? Don't do them. They cause a problem. Super short version on that too, while we're talking about resumes for just a second. I'm really not a fan of chopping your experience off after 10 years, right? Because it creates an integrity problem when you really show up. So just remember that ultimately you're meeting a human being and the human being's going to have a feeling about what you did in terms of your resume. So yeah, don't hide it. What else?
Another question is when we were talking earlier about LinkedIn, someone asked, is LinkedIn a place to post your entire resume, even though you're filling out, you know, the profile? And is it not private so anyone can see your profile? Hopefully I asked that question correctly.
Yeah. Okay. So sure. So one, join us for leveraging LinkedIn. We'll talk more about those kinds of things. But here's the thing. So there's a bunch of things in that question. So when you actually upload your resume to your LinkedIn profile, just know that the only thing we get to see is a picture of it, a JPEG of it. It's ridiculous. So it doesn't do you any good to actually upload your resume to your LinkedIn profile. I don't even know why they have that. It's kind of ridiculous. But your LinkedIn profile essentially is your resume. I'd make them more identical, quite frankly, except for the fact that if you're applying for specific jobs, right? You put those keywords, not just keywords. It's not just keywords, it's words, the same words. It doesn't look at the and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, if they have a word in there like extensible, yours will be the only resume that has extensible in it. You'll get a match. So it's not just keywords, it's words. But yeah, so LinkedIn is super important. I suggest you have a profile. Yeah, your profile is fairly public. And if I'm searching for you, if I'm in LinkedIn and I'm searching for people like you for jobs, you want me to find you. And so, yeah, you know, your information's out there, that's for sure. So if you've got concerns about that, that's a line that you have to draw. But most of the recruiters that I know and almost all of the recruiting that we do is done by identifying people on LinkedIn and reaching out to them as opposed to posting jobs. But we'll talk about that later. What else you got?
Another question is, what happens when the custom resume matching the job doesn't match what you have on LinkedIn? Again, this is probably a leveraging LinkedIn webinar question, but since
Yeah,
we're
no,
just chatting a bit about it.
Yeah, no, it's
Yep,
all
go ahead with
good.
the
And
question.
because we are going to compare the two, and the way I tie it back to this is that when you apply for a job online and I have your resume, I want your LinkedIn link on there. I'm going to bail out of your resume and I'm going to go to your LinkedIn profile because it gives me more information, it puts you in context and all kinds of things. So most of us bail out of your resume and go to your LinkedIn profile. And so, I mean, they're probably going to be really similar, right? So, I mean, the only thing that's happened on your resume is you may be changing a few words or whatever to better match. But I mean, essentially, I need to see the same person in the rest. It's a funny thing. I see people who they have their operations resume and they have their sales resume. And um, my suggestion is being open to lots of things really doesn't serve you. Pick one or the other and go to market after that. And I'm gonna show you in this class why that's so important. But I think they need to be as don't make me be surprised that your LinkedIn profile is radically different than your resume. That makes people go, hmm. And the thing is that getting hired is not one single big decision. There's a bunch of people involved in the decision, and each one of those people is making a bunch of micro decisions, which starts with the name of your resume and whether it's all in caps, because if you put your name all in caps, it comes into my applicant tracking system, it's all in caps, and your name is yelling at me. If you put spaces between the letters in your name, then it comes out where it only put F in the database for your first name because it didn't know that F space R space I, and it didn't know your name was Frank, right? So my point is that we're going to go look at both of them, make them so that I don't see somebody radically different, because the decision I'm going to make is and since getting hired is a whole series of micro decisions, they actually come with sound effects, and the sound effects are either, oh yeah, great, yeah, right, or they're right, right, and you don't want those sound effects. So make them as close as you can. There's no hard and fast rule, but they need to represent the same person and not make me go.
Great. And just one more question before we continue. Especially, I'm guessing this is in relation to LinkedIn. Why does LinkedIn then ask you to let recruiters find you? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What is your take?
Yeah. So what happens is that for the $1,000 a month LinkedIn account, it will give certain recruiters notification of people looking for a job. And so since they want me to spend $1,000 a month on a corporate recruiter license, one of the things they want to sell to me is you get these alerts, right? So they need you and want you to do it. So a minority of all people who are using LinkedIn will have access to that information. It's not a bad thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. It won't make a whole lot of difference, but it'll depending upon how much a company is paying for a recruiter license, then they'll get alerts related to that. Most of us go and seek out the people who we want, so those alerts are, I mean, why not? I mean, it won't hurt, but it's not a big deal if you don't. All right.
All right, we can
All
move
right,
on
cool.
until the next break.
Perfect. All right. So here's the thing. So if we go back to the notion that what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to the front of the line, and if we go back to the idea that there's a hiring manager who really needs your help, and not only a hiring manager who really needs your help, but let's just go back to my real life example where we got Jared who's hiring machine learning engineers. And if you reached out directly to Jared, then what's going to happen is Jared's going to send them over to me. But sometimes hiring managers, and most of the time, are hating on their recruiting teams, right? Because they're busy and the recruiting team's overworked and they need somebody now, right? And what'll happen is when you sometimes apply directly to the hiring manager will go down the hall to recruiting and say, look, what have I got to do? My own recruiting? And they're going to reach out directly, right? The other thing that happens is, imagine, like in my case, again, imagine that someone who was a machine learning engineer actually reached out to the chief scientist, right? Reached out to the top, went up to chief scientist or went up to COO. Well, what's going to happen? The chief scientist is going to send that right over to me and say, hey, somebody reached out to me here. Do you think that's going to get my attention, that the chief scientist sent me somebody? Do you think that that person's now closer to the front of the line? Yeah, I got to get back to them. And that chief scientist, right? That chief scientist wasn't really caring. They don't really know the person. They're just kind of going, yeah, here, you take care of that, right? But it's going to get preferential treatment, I promise you. I had a team that handled the executive referral program at Dell. And if you send an email message to Michael at Dell.com, it used to go to Michael Dell. and or Michael Dell's executive assistant. And if somebody applied for a job, it would essentially go to the executive, my team that was handling all the executive recruiting. Do you think that when we got a message from Michael Dell that said, hey, this person applied for a job, do you think we paid attention to it? Yeah, we did. We followed up on every single one of them. So reach high. My point is that when you see a job that's posted online, connect with the hiring manager, connect with the recruiter, connect with HR, and reach out to them, right? So here's the deal. This is the most important thing that I've told you so far, right here. So let's just skip the applicant tracking system. Let's skip applying loan. Do it, but I'm saying don't ever just do that. So connect with the hiring managers and the recruiters. So let me show you how to do that. So here we have this system administrator job at Bridgefront Capital. I don't know that company at all, so it'll be a great example, I hope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Bridgefront Capital. And there we go, Austin, Texas. Let me just copy this whole thing and show you what I would do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. I would have gone to their website. I might apply online. I don't know if I would or not. I don't have much faith that anything's going to happen when I apply online, so I'm going to take it into my own hands. If I have time, I'll go apply for it online. But here's what I'm really going to do. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to search for, actually, I'm not going to do that. Let me show you what you really ought to do in LinkedIn. Click here, don't ever search here. Go right here, click on people. And when I go to people, and this is not my upgraded account, you have the exact same thing that I do right now. I'm going to go to all filters, see that right there? And I'm going to scroll down to, here it is, current companies. I'm going to put in Bridgefront Capital, and I'm going to put that, and I'm going to click apply. Let's see how many people. Oh, there's only 7 people. And I don't know that it's the necessarily right one, but I got partner, I got managing partner, I got another partner, right? I got a Linux administrator, I got an executive assistant. I would go connect with every single one of these people, right? I would go do this. I would open this. I would open this in a new tab. I would open this in a new tab. And yeah, so here's what I got. Rama Chavali. I'm going to send a connect request to Rama Chavali. I would probably write him a note and say, hey, Rama, you know, what were they hiring? They're hiring a Linux system administrator. I mean, I would only say this if I was a Linux system administrator. Hey, Rama, Linux system administrator in Austin, Texas. It's always great to connect with other people, right? I'd send them a message. And what's going to happen is I would send that connection request to, I'm just going to connect with them. To Rama, and then I would go here to Vic. Vic is the Linux administrator. I'm going to connect with Vic, and I'd say, hey, Vic, I'm a Linux administrator in Austin, Texas, too. I heard a rumor that you guys might be hiring a Linux system administrator. Let's connect, right? And there might be a referral bonus for Matt, right? And so now I'm going to go to Mirjam Hatley, and I'm going to connect with Mirjam and say, hey, you know, hey, Mirjam, I'm a Linux administrator here in Austin, Texas. It's always great to connect. And what's going to happen is when I get connected with them under their contact information, I'm going to get their email address. Somebody's going to have their work email address. I'm going to know the pattern for everybody's work email address. And now I know how to reach out to these people via email. And so now that I have email addresses, I will pick a handful of these people and I'll send them an email message, right? I'll send them an email message. And what do you think? We were already talking about it. What happens when somebody sends an email message to the chief scientist at Readiness? That's where I'm working on the machine learning scientist positions. The chief scientist goes, hey, Gary, here's one, right? And I pay attention to it. If they reach out to Jared, who's the head of the science team, he's going to send it to me, or he might act on it. My point is that you're getting yourself to the front of the line because you just skip the whole apply online process. I'm not saying don't apply online. I'm saying do this in addition to, and I'd probably do this first, quite frankly, because it's a whole lot faster. Because what's going to happen is that if there's somebody's, or if they're already late stage in conversations with people right now, we have 2 finalists coming in for interviews for senior vice president of science next week. There's no way that anybody's getting attention to unless they reach directly out to the chief scientist or someone like that. I mean, they're just not going to get any attention. But if they were really great, they reached out right now, maybe even to the CEO, they could get themselves inserted into the middle of the process, right? That's how that works. You see that? Does that make sense? What do you guys think? I mean, what do you think? All right. Has anybody telling us anything, Maya? I hope this stuff makes sense because it's really, really, really powerful. And
It
just remember that it goes back to this, right? Here's one is it goes back to two things. Get yourself to the front of the line. And the assumption we can make about a job that's open is there's a person who needs your help. And what's happening is there's a bunch of people and a bunch of processes in your resumes and a recruiter and an HR person. All these people are between you and the hiring managers who aren't helping you, and they're not helping the hiring manager. There's nothing about that that gets you to the front of the line. Every single one of those things is in your way. I'm in your way. And so, yeah, I mean, jump to the front of the line. What do you think?
is. A couple people were responding while you were doing that quick search as a
Yeah,
demo. Um, but one of the questions that did come up is, uh, it was fine for the example that you had where it was a smaller organization, but when it comes to a much larger organization with tens of thousands of employees, how do
sure.
you go about trying to find that hiring manager or recruiter to connect with without literally having to go through, the tens and thousands of people?
Oh yeah. So great question. We're going to get that to the later in the class, but the short version is don't worry about too much about the specific job. I mean, if you're interested in working at Facebook in Austin, Texas, go find all the people at Facebook in Austin, Texas who are in or around the roles who might be hiring managers. If it's not the job that you saw posted online, maybe they're hiring somebody or they might know somebody who is. So the bad news is that if you see a particular job posting, it's very difficult to target the specific person who's hiring for that specific job and the specific recruiter. The good news is a lot of them are hiring, so it kind of doesn't matter. So, I mean, it's the same approach. I mean, you can certainly apply for that job, but then go find some hiring managers inside of that company and go connect with them and go reach out to them and go find recruiters and go find peers. I mean, go reach out and connect with them. By the way, the message that you want to send, I'd probably modify this a little bit, but let me show you right. A message is, hey, my name's Gary O'Neill. I'm a certified network administrator, IT security specialist, or whatever it is that they happen to be hiring for, right? I help companies get the most out of their computing investment, whatever it is that you do. I heard that you might be seeking a high performance, whatever it is, who's motivated to solve this kind of thing. And these are all things that I pulled out of the job description, right? And then I'm going to wrap it up with something like, to welcome, when the time is right, or welcome a conversation about how I might be able to help you and your company achieve its goals. Launch that message. And the other thing about big companies, the good news is that once you have this down pat, I mean, you can, and it takes a little bit of practice, but you can identify, it's not about trying to be too targeted. It's about trying to identify some people, reach out to some people, and reaching out to more people is better than fewer people. So go identify 20 hiring managers at these large companies who have the kinds of titles that are the kind of people who hire you, and send messages to all 20 of them. So maybe it isn't that same job, but kind of does it really matter? The other thing I can tell you is that job descriptions are very rarely very representative of the job. So don't read too much into job descriptions, right? I mean, just don't read too much into them. What else you got? Anything else, man?
Let's see. Another question that did come up is, that's actually a good one. I already have applied for a job and they're looking to hire me. My question is, can I use this strategy that you're presenting in terms of connecting with people from this point on? Is this not a good thing? Should I not connect, or should I move forward with connecting, knowing that they will probably hire me?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I think the answer is that I want to be first person connected in LinkedIn to every single user in LinkedIn, every single one of them. So there's no reason not to be. And so, what I know is that there might be, if they're looking at hiring you, there may be discussion inside of the company about you. And then a good thing would be if Jim and Sally and whatever go, hey, Gary connected with me. And Gary, I mean, I think no harm can come from it. So, LinkedIn isn't social media, right? They try to be, but they're not. And the other thing about LinkedIn is that um, I can only find you in a search if you're inside of my network, first, second, or third person to me. So the answer is connect with people. And if you're moving forward with respect to a team of people, go connect with that team of people. You're there to help them, right? Yeah, and you're there to help them. So yeah, always connect with people. I think it's a great idea. All right. What do you think, Mayan? Can we move on?
Yeah.
We good? All right, cool. All right, so here's the deal. So here's where we're at. So you want to get to the front of the line, all right? Where'd it go? I'm not so good with that. There we go. We want to get to the front of the line. We want to find the person who really needs our help or the people who are around them. And so what you got to do is if you see a job that's posted online, what you ought to do is if you want to apply for it, apply directly on the company's website if possible. And before you do it, just copy and paste the job description somewhere in your resume, get rid of all of these and the yours, but leave all the rest of the words, even extensibility and those kinds of things, because it's about matching words is what it's about. That makes a big difference in terms of whether or not you get any attention in the applicant tracking system or not. And then recognize that, the person who's looking at your resume, they got a ton of stuff going on. They're super busy and they don't necessarily understand the job nor how to evaluate your profile. But the hiring manager and the people around them do. So connect with the hiring manager. You can connect with the recruiters in HR, right? And reach out to those people, and you get yourself a whole lot closer to the front of the line. And the really fun thing about it is that in general, people want to hire people who do what it takes to get the job done, who are problem solvers and troubleshooters and all that kind of stuff. And so by doing this kind of stuff, you're actually exhibiting the kinds of behaviors that people really want to hire. In your handouts, there's a couple of message styles, right? I mean, these are just general messages. So here might be my first one to somebody, right? Here's my second one. I'm following up from a message I sent last week. I know you're busy. I don't mean to be a bother, right? I'm just networking to find a new career opportunity, blah, 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 right? And then my last one is I take myself out. Still networking, looking for IT professionals who might be don't want to bother you. So this would be my last message. I'm a certified in whatever it is that I do. Thanks for your time and consideration. And that way, if you make a list of the people who you're reaching out to, and you know that you got the 3 messages already, you know the frequency that you're going to send them, you can send the 3 and you just scratch them off the list, right? Maybe they'll get back to you sometime, maybe they won't, but it's all about the activity, right? It's all about the activity. And I know that if you're sending out 100 email messages, it might feel funny, but each one of those people only experiences getting 1 email message. By the way, another thing that would really help here is that if it's a company that you're super interested in and you've got the time, right? In this message, I would actually tell them that, right? So it would be a whole lot more effective with Revionics if you said, hey, my name's Gary O'Neill, I'm a machine learning engineer. Hey, Revionics looks like a really interesting company. The way that you use Bayesian modeling to do, pricing optimizations for retailers is really exciting to me. That's motivating. It's the kind of work that I would really like to do. And so if you got time, go check it out a little bit and go say, hey, I think you're awesome, right? Look at you guys. Wow. And the reason why is because, if you send a message over to the chief scientist that's just generic, he's probably going to pass it on to me. But if somebody says, hey, I did a little bit of homework on you guys, and man, look at the work that you do and the retailers you're working with and the kind of work that you do, that's high value. And I'm super interested in that. I would welcome a conversation when the time is right. Much better, right? Much better. Let me drop out of this presentation for just a second and kind of back away from it all for just a second. So here's the thing, it's just people. And if you forget that there's a process and you forget there's a resume, resumes are horrible, by the way. I can't believe we still use that tool. Job descriptions are horrible. Don't take it all so seriously. What we're talking about is there are people who need your help, and that's it. Go find people who you can help and reach out to them with the honest notion that you really want to help them. You want to help them in their lives. You want to help them with their careers. Go find teams that you can help. And if you just forget about it's a recruiting process and there's the screening things and what are the rules, right? There aren't any. There aren't any. There's just people, right? So go connect with people. If you go to market looking for a job, then you're kind of going to market you're taking, right? You want something. If you go to market trying to find people you can help, you're giving. And the extreme is you're needy. Hey, I need a job. I saw a LinkedIn profile the other day that was essentially saying, just give me a chance. It's like, by saying, just give me a chance, yeah, nobody's going to give you a chance, right? It's not their position to do that. But if you go out, so, needy isn't pretty. So if you go out to market and just go find some people and say, hey, I see your profile. Look at that. Look at the stuff you guys are doing. Super interesting to me. Here's a little bit about me. I would welcome a conversation when the time is right. The people on the other end don't like the recruiting process either. They really don't. A lot of people tell me it's their least favorite thing to do. They don't hire many people. They're nervous in interviews. So go help them, right? Go help them. All right. So let's get back to this. So the other thing you need for an effective job search strategy is you really do need a resume that rocks. You really do. So let me give you a few pointers on a resume that rocks. This is not a resumes class, but let's do it. So my suggestion, the biggest one, is use your professional brand as your summary. If you don't have a professional brand, I'm going to show you one in a minute. But really, your professional brand is a statement of, it's grounded in today, and it paints a picture of you being successful in the future. Your professional brand isn't about what you did in the past. It's about what you're doing in the future. So have a professional brand as your summary. And the notion is that since somebody's looking at your resume from the top down, if at the top of your resume, you're essentially saying, hey, I'm a network administrator and IT security specialist. I help companies solve these kinds of problems using these kinds of skills and doing those kinds of things. You just instantly, as long as it's a fit, you just became the kind of person who they really want to hire, right? And then your work history supports your ability to do that. Make sure that your resume is clean, simple, clear, and concise, right? Forget all the rules about it should only be 2 pages, right? It's not true at all. I mean, the reason why that's not true is really simple. Imagine that I have your resume, and imagine I'm on page number 1. I'm going, whoa, wow, yeah, this is great. Look at that. Oh, awesome. Yeah. And I turn to page 2. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Right. And oh, there's a 3rd page. This person's out. Like, that would never happen. It's ridiculous, right? So, but it is about making sure that it's clear, simple, concise, that's not boring, and it doesn't run on, right? Matching words and phrases to the job description is huge. Use their language if you got time, right? You don't have time to do that if you don't really care about that company and that job. And maybe if you don't really care about that company and that job, don't apply for it, right? Maybe, but on the other hand, apply for lots of things, see what comes back, and just engage in conversations, right? Make sure that your resume, that you highlight results and transferable skills. It doesn't matter really all the things you did in the past. The only thing that matters that you did in the past is what's relevant with regard to your ability to be successful in the future. So even in your career history, I read resumes from the bottom up, and a lot of recruiters do, and it needs to tell a story. And the idea is that if I read your resume from the bottom up, I have to be able to go, oh, that makes sense. I see. You started here. You did this kind of thing. You learned these kinds of things. You moved over that. Okay, I can kind of put together a pattern and bring me up to present. And then I kind of go, oh, your summary projects you out in the future. That's what your resume needs to do. It tells a story from the bottom up. I don't know why resumes start with the most recent position. They really ought to be around the other way around. I mean, what story starts at the ending and works backwards? I don't know, but that's the way it is. I wouldn't flip my resume the other way because you'll look weird. But if you read your resume from the bottom up, it needs to make sense. So my point about highlighted results and transferable skills and characteristics, here's the deal. If you're moving into a role, let's say an IT administrator role, what are the characteristics that make the person successful in the job? It has nothing to do with their ability to do the work. You assume that they can. Well, attention to detail, great customer service, getting things done right the first time, being mindful of budget and vigilant about security. So if those are the kinds of characteristics that would make somebody wildly successful in that role, then look at your resume and look at your background and try to show where you've exhibited those kinds of characteristics in the past. Join us for Resumes That Rock. We dive into that. Make sure your resume has got your link to your LinkedIn profile. So you need a great resume that rocks for an effective job search, that's for sure. Here's the short version on your professional brand. This is the only part of it I kind of wanted to dive into just a little bit in effective job search strategies because I think it makes a big difference. So here's the deal. It's up at the very top of your resume. I don't care how it got in someone's hands. They're reading it from the top down mostly. And essentially here's paint by numbers version of building your professional brand. My name is, that's up at the top of your resume. I am a blank and a blank where you're filling in with titles. I'm a Title I and a Title II. One of these came off the job description if you're applying for a specific job. The other one's just going to like zero it in a little bit more. With this stuff that makes me unique, with this kind of a background, with this kind of experience, with these certifications, right? I help companies like this solve problems like this one, and this one. My skills include this one, that one, and the other one, and I'm currently ready to. Let me just show you a real example because you got this in your notes. You can use this as kind of a paint by numbers version. Start with that and then iterate over it. And you end up with something like this. Hi, my name is Gary O'Neill. I'm a certified network administrator and IT security specialist with CompTIA A+, Net Plus, and Security Plus, and MCSE certifications. Look at me go. I help companies keep users productive, minimize IT costs, protect company assets, company IT and data assets. My skills include server administration, desktop support, and network security management. I'm ready to join an organization where an effective IT management can make a significant difference to business success. So that ends up becoming, in bullet point form, the summary of my resume. That becomes my cover letter. That is my answer when somebody says, so tell me a little bit about yourself, right? I mean, there it is. And it all comes from this whole little outline right there, which answers the critical hiring questions. Who are you? What do you do? Do you understand how you can help my business? Do you have proof? And why should I consider you further? So yeah, join us for Resumes of Rock. We'll go into this a little bit more. But I think that this is really critical. So we're talking about an effective job search strategy. And let me just kind of reorient us to where we're at. An effective job search strategy is focused on getting to the front of the line as quickly and as easily as you possibly can, which is getting in front of the hiring manager, in front of the decision maker as directly as you can, because you don't get hired unless that happens. So let's skip everything else. We started with the notion of applying for open jobs because that's the strategy that most people know how to execute. And what we were saying is that regardless of which tool you use to search for jobs, by the way, I forgot to mention, I'm going to show you something real quick. Sorry for the quick tangent, but I promise I know where I'm at and I'll come back. We looked at Indeed. A lot of people know that. The better job search engine is this one, right? It's Google, right? Did you know that Google has a wickedly great job search engine, right? Wickedly great. I mean, essentially most of the stuff that's on Indeed, they scraped off of companies' websites and the rest, right? Except for the people who pay them money. So it has a bias toward people who pay them money, obviously. But if I go to Google and just say, Google job search, who spiders websites and can find jobs better, Indeed or Google? I think Google. And then when you go here, right, you click that banner. Now it talks about what titles. It'll show me other alternative titles. I can do, location. By the way, don't pay attention to date posted. It doesn't matter. Location, type, all kinds of stuff. And then also what happens is when you start looking at the ones that are here, they'll show you that Google went out here and found all the places that this job or one similar was posted. So you could apply on LinkedIn. Not a bad idea. You could apply on Google Careers, which is probably a good idea because that's Google, right? That's essentially applying on their job site. Apply on Stack Overflow. That's interesting. If you have a Stack Overflow account, which doesn't make sense for lots of roles, but if you did, then you're probably one of the only people applying there. And so you could even take all these paths. So Google has a wickedly great job search engine, just as an aside, but it's part of an effective job search strategy. When you find these jobs, if you want to apply directly on the company website where you can. LinkedIn's not a bad choice because you're going into the recruiters, but everything back from that is worse. This one's the worst one, by the way. This one's ZipRecruiter, what a mess. I probably shouldn't editorialize, but I'm here to help you understand where my world is, and this thing's a mess. But yeah, so once you find the job, then the real effective strategy is go to LinkedIn, see if you can't identify hiring managers or multiple hiring managers, peers, recruiters, reach out to them, connect with them on LinkedIn. Once you've connected with them on LinkedIn, you can get their contact information. Once you have one person's contact information in terms of their work email address, you now have them all because they follow a common pattern generally. And you can reach out to them not saying, hey, I hear you're hiring, because that doesn't make them more interested in you. What does is to say, hey, I'm a this and a that, and this is the problems that I solve. I learned this thing about you guys, and wow, that's exciting to me. When the time is right, I would welcome a conversation to see how I can make a difference and solve problems inside of your company. So be giving, not taking, right? Not wanting, but giving as you go. And then I guess kind of where we're at to bring it all up is to be able to have that conversation. Well, it's important to have a professional brand, and your professional brand really says nothing about your past. It's grounded in today, and it projects you out into the future. If you're in career transition, just because you've never been paid to do something doesn't mean you don't have experience. So here's the deal. If you don't feel confident enough to go out to the world and say, if this is the right job for you, if you don't have the right, if you need, it doesn't make somebody be more interested in you to say, well, I was a nurse and then I did this kind of stuff and I'm career transition, I'm moving over into IT. I mean, that doesn't make somebody more interested in you. They'll find that out when they get to your work history. But what you want to do is this whole, you ever heard of this thing called confirmation bias? It's what we all have as humans. And it's based upon the idea that we like to be right. And so the thing is that once I've decided something, it's harder and harder to get me to decide something different. And so first impressions matter. So if at the top of your resume, I see this summary that says, hey, I'm a certified network administrator, IT security specialist with these certifications, and I help do these kinds of things, and they match with the job description. I don't know that they match with the job description, but if I'm hiring, right, I'm kind of going, and you do the stuff that I want, you got the skills that I'm kind of looking for, and okay, great. So that just made me go, yes, and I just decided that I like you. And so now when I start moving into your work history and I start seeing a history that isn't all about that, I'm already in the mood of trying to find a reason why I like you. And so I think it's important that in your professional brand, you focus on what is your next step. That's what you're telling people about. That's what your professional brand is all about. All right. And I'll stop for questions here in just a second, but here's the summary of everything that we've talked about, which is when you're in the open job market, don't just apply for a job, because when you apply for a job online, you apply at the end of the line and all the actions at the front of the line. You can use an automated search to apply quickly. What I mean by automated search is, both Google, you can set Google alerts, you can set them on Indeed. Every single one of these sites is going to allow you to set something so that when a new job that matches your search comes in, you'll get an alert, usually by email. And so if I posted a job today, there's going to be 30 people who apply by the end of the day. At the end of the day, I might be curious and go look at that 30. And if I find two or three or four that I'm interested in, okay, I'm going to pay attention. By Monday, another 80 people applied. All I know is that we might look at the first 25 or 30, but we're not moving through that other 50. So it does matter how fast you apply. Don't worry about it too much, but you can do that. It helps. This is a game of inches, right? So connect to a recruiter and a hiring manager, send LinkedIn messages as they connect, get their contact information, find other ways to connect, reach out by phone if you want to, politely persistent follow-ups. Let's talk about this one for just a second. Some of you can or can't do this. I do understand that I can pick up the phone and call a stranger and have a conversation, but here's the thing. If you've got the chutzpah to do it, or whatever you want to call it, then I suggest you do that. And it's really easy. So if I wanted to talk to the chief scientist or someone at Readiness, what would I do? I would go to here. I would go to Readiness Austin phone number. Just ask Google. Jobs. Yeah, well, I can go here. I can go to their site. I'm not going to do it, but I can navigate to it and I can find their office here in town. I can get their phone number. And when I call them, it's going to say, thanks for calling. Actually, somebody's going to answer the phone. But mostly it gets an auto attendant. And through the auto attendant, I can put in the name of the person I want to talk to. And it's going to ring their phone on their desk and they might just pick up. And if that hiring manager picks up, I'm going to say, hey, Sally, hi, my name's Gary O'Neill. I'm a Unix administrator here in town. You don't know me or anything. Tell you, I'm so sorry. Do you have just a moment? You have just a moment. Okay, great. I heard a rumor that you guys might be hiring a Linux system administrator. I know I'm just calling you out of the blue, but I've got these certifications. The work that you guys do over this is exciting to me. Those kinds of things. I mean, I would welcome a conversation with you. So you might just go in for an interview this afternoon, right? You might. In fact, there's a pretty good chance of it. Now, on the off chance that you get somebody who isn't nice, and most people are nice, on the off chance that they go to the end of the line, job seeker, did you apply for a job online? The rest of people want to go, well, won't that hurt my chances? Like, no, if they're that person, they didn't pay attention to your name. They don't even know who you are, right? I mean, when you come back through the other channel, so why not, right? Reach out by phone. These are people. Go find some people to help, right? That's what it's really all about. An effective job search strategy really just comes down to go find some people to help. So that's what to do with open jobs. So let's shift. Let me pause for a second. Mayan, anything we need to talk about right now? Any questions? Anything that anybody wants to?
Yeah, we had a
should
few
jump
come
into?
in.
Okay.
One question was, is there a way to know if a job is being handled through a recruiter on LinkedIn or Indeed? Sometimes I know jobs that are posted on those sites can be directly from the company or from a recruiter. Is there a way to know that?
Well, I guess my first thing is, does it matter? Doesn't matter. So what I know is you're just looking for people to talk to. And here's what I know. Most recruiters who are any good, who are in third-party recruiting firms, are so much better than the internal recruiters. Let's just say this, that if there was a job that rarely is my team in competition with the internal team, usually we're working on separate things, but if they were, you'd be really better off connecting with us than you would anybody who was internal to the company. Most of the time, external recruiters have far more game than the internal recruiters. But yeah, you can usually tell, like this one, I mean, that's going directly to that company. IT Matters is going directly. Knowability is going directly. Let's find one that didn't. Usually you can tell by the name of the company, right? Because if it's a recruiting firm, then it will, I'm trying to find one. Let's look over here. That one's with Google. These are Google. I don't know why it's, oh, let's say system. System administrator jobs, Austin, Texas. IT Pros is direct. I'm trying to find one. So here's one. Experis is a recruiting firm, so that's usually how you know. Epic Systems and Client Administrator, right? And sometimes what you can do is, there's nothing very specific in this one. Sometimes you can, if there's something really specific in it, let's see if CT Computer Task Group is another one. Some travel required, and too specific. People have learned, companies have learned not to do this. Oh, here we go, right? We might get lucky, and what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go paste that into a Google search. Arkansas Technology Confirmation. Sometimes you can copy and paste stuff out of a job description like that and go find the company. It looks like we didn't hit it this time, but sometimes you can. So mostly to directly answer the question, mostly you can just tell because it'll be a it'll be a recruiting firm that's listed there. But I'm not sure that makes a whole lot of difference. If it were me, what I would do is I would certainly apply through that. I would reach out to some of the recruiters at Computer Task Group. I mean, reach out to people who can help you. I mean, that's really what it's all about. Yeah. So mostly, if a company is working with an organization like that, a recruiting firm, they just want somebody hired. What else you got, Mayan?
Great. Going back to when you were talking about your professional brand and making that
Yeah.
statement, and this, I know this is a very popular question that comes up all the time. How can I build my professional brand statement if I don't have previous experience besides just having certifications and things like that, not hardcore real experience?
Yeah, so it's a great question, but here's the thing. So your training and what it took to get certifications is experience. I mean, it is. I don't think you could have gotten them if it weren't. And the other thing is that don't apply for jobs that you can't do. So if you're applying for jobs that you can't do, then stop doing that. So here's the thing. So if through my training, I'm really confident that I will be a great, end user support specialist, right? Help desk analyst or whatever it is. If I'm confident that I'll be great at that, then I need to say that. I mean, I am a, right? And if you can't put that jacket on, if you can't feel confident that you are that, then it's going to be really hard for another person to be confident. So I think that it's not about experience. It's about what, the experience is about your ability to do the work, and being successful, not only in being hired, but being successful in the role has so much more to do with that. And so I guess my thinking is that if you're in career transition, that if you're not confident that you are the person who's going to be successful in the role, then you're not going to get hired for it anyway, because the other person isn't going to feel your confidence. So, you need to be able to stand up and say, I am if you're applying for a, help desk tier 1 job, I am a help desk professional, right? With these certifications, I help end users solve their problems, respond quickly, ensure that they're able to maintain their productivity and to do it quickly. My skills include everything there is to know about Microsoft, the ability to listen and hear, and great customer service, and whatever else you see in the job description. So if you're not confident enough to say that about a particular role and particular job, then you're not going to get hired anyway. So I guess that's my answer to the question. It's not about experience.
Okay.
One final thing is consultants all the time go out there. I mean, how many people have read the book on the airplane and become an expert along the way? So it's really about if you're confident you're going to be able to help those other people solve their problems, then go for it and tell them.
In regards to the professional brand,
Yeah.
I know it's a statement, but how would you say this is in comparison to a cover letter? Does it make up for a lack of a cover letter? Is this something that goes at the top of your resume? Is this just a statement that you send to the
Yeah.
recruiter?
Got it. So what I would do is I would take this, and this is going to turn into the summary of my resume, right? And what I'm going to do, I'll just show you. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to open Microsoft Word, and I'm going to bring that up. Come on, here we go. So assume that I have my name and everything at the top, and here's my brand statement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go bulletize that. And instead of saying executive summary or anything like that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make that bold. I'm going to make it a little bigger. All right, so there it goes into that. And the super short version is going to be this. Ability to keep users productive, right? Focus on minimizing IT cost, expertise in protecting company assets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to break it into some pieces, and then effective IT, that. So there's the first version of it. So this becomes the summary of my resume. Obviously, I got a little bit of work to do, but I mean, I can hone this. I could hone this. I could hone this just a little bit, and it's going to come out pretty sharp, right? The other thing I do, by the way, on the summary in the summary section of my resume is I'll also put one that says keywords right here, and this is before my work history, right? Work experience is going to go down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this job description, and I'm going to take this stuff. Oh, goodness. I'm going to take that. I'm going to go paste that down at the bottom. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to clean this all up, but like any things there's like San Naz that I actually have that fits. This isn't a great example for that, but I would go pick out those things that are specific skills or tools or technologies or whatever that I'm familiar with. I would copy those. I would put those right here. Right, so I would take some section of these kinds of things, not a section, but I'd take those really significant ones. I'm going to drop them right here at the top, so that now words that match the job description are right here at the top of my resume. Both a human's going to see that, and it wouldn't be this, right? It would be words that are skills or tools or specific things like that that are going to match the job description. I drop it right there, and then there's my work history. So that's how I turn it in. So that's how I use it in the top of my resume. And then what I do is if I was writing a cover letter, right, or an email message, so if I go over to my email system, I hit compose, and I'm going to drop it right here. And oh, I didn't have it anymore. But I'd say, hey, Bob, in an email message, I'm a certified network administrator. I tell them these things and probably put it in this kind of a framework. So I think your professional brand, it's the multi-purpose tool. It's your cover letter. It's the top of your resume. It's the way you introduce yourself. It's all of those things. It has nothing to do with your history. It's grounded in today, and it's, painting a picture of the future. And its whole intent is for you to leave the impression and paint a picture in someone else's mind. So they go, oh, you're the person who can help me. That's what your professional brand is all about. All right. What do you think? Does that make sense?
I think it does.
Okay.
Just one more question and then we can move on.
Sure.
Um, if you're on a company's website job search, job board, should you still try to connect with the HR director, or would that just make them, would that turn them off if you were trying to connect with
Always,
them?
always, 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 always connect with people. Forget that there's a process. Forget it, right? Forget that there's any rules. There's no rules. Who made up those rules? You didn't make up those rules, right? There's no rules. And so, as long as your heart is in the right place. So here's the deal. If your whole focus is on, I want a job, I'm needy over here, right? This strategy I'm telling you is not going to work so well for you, because when you reach out to people, you have to add value to what you're saying to them. And you'll notice that in these messages that I would send to people, I didn't even say that I saw that a job was open, because if you do that, I mean, why does somebody like you more? So in your communications, in your resume, in your interview, in your conversations, in your emails, just be conscious of, is the thing I'm about to say likely to make the other person more interested in me? And if the answer is I don't know or no, well, then don't say it. And so when you're reaching out to these professionals and you say, hey, I saw a job that was posted online, does that make them like you more? At best, it's just doesn't add any value. It doesn't make them like you more. Well, then don't say that. Why would you say that? All you're doing is inviting them to tell you, go to the end of the line, job seeker, right? I mean, that's all you're inviting them to do. So, but yeah, I would certainly reach out to them. But when I reach out to them, how you say it would be really critically important. So Valerie Mealy is the head of HR over at Revionics. And if you reached out to Valerie and you said, hey, Valerie, I'm a system engineer here in Austin, Texas. I hear some things about Revionics. Just reaching out to you, I would welcome a conversation about how I might be able to add value to Revionics when the time is right. Valerie would send that over to me. Well, that's what she would do in this particular case, or otherwise she would reach out. So reach out to people, communicate with them, allow them the honor of helping you is really the thing. And they'll be more interested in helping you if clearly what you're doing is you're trying to act in their best interest and you're trying to help them. So that's a long way around, but yeah, always connect with people.
All right, we can move on into the next break.
Cool. All right. So here's where we're at. So we've covered most of the core stuff. We're just going to kind of reuse that. So here's the thing. We started with this whole notion of how to better apply for open jobs, or a better way to put it is, how do we take advantage of the fact that we see a job that's open and posted somewhere to find an opportunity to help another person? And what's the most direct way we can do that? Because it must be urgent, and how dare you not find them and reach out to them today? I mean, how dare you? They need your help. And if they don't need your help and you can't help them, don't bother them, right? Don't apply for jobs that don't make any sense. I mean, it's just wasting everybody's time. So here's the thing. Think about this. What was happening before the job was open and posted? What was happening inside of that organization? What was happening for the person who's now the hiring manager? And what I'm talking about is 3 months before the job was posted, what was going on? Right? Type some things and mine will help us look at that. What was happening before the job that you see was ever open and was ever posted online? What was going on? What do you think?
Giving people a minute here to
Sure.
answer.
What's going on inside of that company, inside of that team? What's going on at the hiring manager's house at night?
Someone says that someone may be doing two jobs
Yeah, somebody's
or overworked.
overworked. Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact,
the
the whole
company
team
is
might be
growing.
overworked. The company's growing. Yes. Yay. We hope.
Retirement,
Yep.
retirement,
Yep. Exactly. What else?
working long hours.
Yeah, working long hours. Somebody's trying to find budget. They don't want to spend the money, right? I mean, everything's good. So the team is overworked, a problem has been identified. Maybe the problem's a good problem that they're growing a new business, but no matter what, a problem has been identified. It appears that the solution to the problem is going to be hiring and adding a person to help, right? It's not about hiring someone. It's about bringing somebody, getting somebody on the board of the team to help. Hiring is just a contractual relationship through which we actually pay you. What we really need is your help, right? That's what we need. It's just in the construct, and this notion of jobs and money and stuff like that is it's kind of make believe. We invented that. What really matters is there's some people who need your help, and so now what they're trying to do, they're trying to get budget. They're reorganizing. They're trying to figure out how to do more with less. There's other people who are quitting because there's everything that you can imagine, but there's certainly drama. There's human dynamic. There's people who are involved. Their lives are impacted. There's money involved, and there's permission being sought. So prior to the job being open and posted, at some point, they got the authorization to be able to hire. They got the green light. And that doesn't mean in all companies that that job was posted right away. A lot of companies don't have recruiters. They're not posting jobs. It's left as an exercise to the hiring manager. So my point is that weeks and months prior to a job ever being posted online, the hiring manager knew that they were going to need to hire somebody. They knew that Bob was probably going to quit. They knew that they were going to let Sally go. They knew that the organization was going to grow because they had a bunch of proposals out. They knew. When I talk to hiring managers, they know months in advance that they're going to need to bring somebody on board their team. So what we need to do is we need to take advantage of that because they're usually overworked. They don't know how to do this stuff. And so if you have a hiring manager who knows that they're going to need to bring somebody on board their team in the next few couple of months, if someone reaches out to that person and says, hey, I'm the kind of person who helps you do the kind of things that you do, is the hiring manager likely to engage with them? Yeah, they are. What about peers? What about other people on the team? My point is that what was going on prior to the job being open and posted was approvals were being sought and there was awareness that they needed to bring somebody on board the team, but there wasn't a line yet. There's no line yet. So that's the real key to think about. So here's the deal. There was a problem and they recognized the problem. That problem becomes the job opportunity because the only reason why companies hire is because there is a problem that needs to be solved. Sometimes it's a good problem called, we need more hands because we've got so much business. Sometimes the problem is a technical problem. There's all kinds of stuff, but a problem appears, they try to reorganize. It's a future job for them. They don't have approval yet. What happens is time goes by, they seek budget, they start doing an internal search. Who do you know? Who do you know? Do you have any friends? Right? So they try to do an internal search. It's a hidden job at this point and it's approved. If you reach out at this point when it is a future job and the hiring manager knows, will the hiring manager connect with you? Yeah, oftentimes. Will peers and people on the team connect with you and talk to you about it? Yeah, lots of times, right? You're a Linux administrator or Microsoft administrator, connect with other Microsoft administrators. They'll certainly talk to you when it's a hidden job because they're trying to hire somebody. And when you reach out to people and there's a hidden job and they've got budget and it's an internal search and they're not finding anybody, they actually just had a serendipitous moment just happened, and they'll believe that things happen for a reason, and maybe they do. I mean, maybe that's the reason why you reached out to them, but you're now the person who's got the halo effect. It's like, psh, unbelievable. Somebody just dropped in my email today, right? Now, the thing is, if you reach out to 100 hiring managers, some of them are hiring right now, some of them have open jobs, some aren't going to hire at all, some are looking for a job themselves, and some know that they're going to. So for those who are looking for somebody like you and they know that they need to hire, you just created a serendipitous moment for this person who needs your help. All right. So what happens after that? The problem grows. It becomes an external search. It becomes an open job. And by this time, their hair is on fire. And what happens is by the time their hair is on fire, they need somebody with experience. They run out of time. They don't have time to train anyone. And if you're in career transition, it's highly competitive. Lots of people are applying, and chances are there's somebody in line in front of you who has better skills, experience, and the rest than you do. So your optimal place when you're looking for a job, no matter what, is way down here in the open job space. It's highly competitive, right? Your optimal place is right here in this area, in this future job space and in this hidden job space, because there isn't any line yet. So what happens is you can create your own opportunities. Here's when they get approval to hire, it becomes a hidden job. And finally, they get some help with hiring, which is a job post or what have you. And now you're in competition. So if you don't really want to compete, and I suggest that you don't, because just statistically, I don't care what's going on statistically, there's somebody else in line who will do a better job cheaper than you will. Move this direction. So an effective job search strategy moves from, this direction back into this direction. This is where the real opportunity is. So let's talk about how to do that. So, if you want to compete in the open job space, just don't apply for a job, have a professional brand, resume that rocks, leverage LinkedIn, be easy to find, ace your interview, and we have things on all of that. And that's what we've kind of just gone through, is competing in the open job space. But there's no line before a job is open and posted, but there's no way to apply. So what's happening after the approval, but where they don't have help or anything, is the hiring manager's scrambling and they're hoping that a miracle is going to happen because they don't have time to go look for anybody, nor does anybody on the team. So here's the thing. I'm not sure why this is right there. Here's the thing. So to do an effective job in that space, it starts with this. You need to build your network. And it's really, really, really simple to build your network. And you can do it as simply as lots of connections on LinkedIn. You want to be connected to as many people as you possibly can. And the reason why is because when the hiring manager goes to LinkedIn and searches for you, and they're not going to have an upgraded account, you won't come up in their search results unless you're connected to them, either first person, second person, or third person. We'll explain that in the Leveraging LinkedIn class. But you need to be in their network. If you're first person connected to somebody, you come up higher in search results, and coming up higher in search results is in a way to get it's closer to the front of the line. So you want to connect with the recruiters, because those are the people who are looking for you. You want to connect with people you know. You want to connect with hiring managers, because those are people who are looking for you. You want to connect with peers, because when you connect with the recruiters are connected with hiring managers. And so when you connect with me, you get connected to my whole first level network, becomes your second level network, and all those people can now see you. The purpose for building your network in LinkedIn is so that when other people run a search, that you will come up in their search results. And the more people you're first person connected to, the higher you're going to come up in search results. It's really that simple. You want to be easy. Well, I know why this slide was in there. You want to be easy to find. So, but this is a great way to be easy to find. So let me show you real quick how to do it. This is not the Leveraging LinkedIn class, so we don't have time to dive into it too deep, but I'll show you a couple of things. So it's really pretty simple. Anytime just don't type up here, right? Almost never type up here. What you really want to do is click up here, and you're searching for people. So click people. And now what you want to do is you click on all filters. You probably already figured this out because you're curious. You click on stuff, right? You know that you can't break it. So just go click on stuff. So I'm going to put in this case, Austin, Texas, just because. And then what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put in the title recruiter. About 1 million people in this area. How many people do you think are recruiters? 3,563, right? Google Recruiter. I can narrow that down if I want to, because some are in healthcare and all that kind of stuff. So what I can do is I can go back to my all filters, and just so I can target my search a little bit more if I wanted to, I can say technical recruiter and click apply. I got 845. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open in a new tab, open in a new tab, open in a new tab, open in a new tab. So I'm going to go open a bunch of them in new tabs. Join us for the Leveraging LinkedIn class, and I'll tell you why you want to do that. It's called Don't Hit the Commercial Search Limit. There's only so many searches you can run for free. And if I click Christy Grace, and so if I click that here, and now I click back, it's going to rerun my search, and it's going to count as another search. If I open it in a new tab, it doesn't. That's the reason why you want to do that. And I'm going to connect. And then what I'm going to do when I connect is, oh, I don't want to do that. She didn't like to be connected with. How weird. Some people, you can set that. Most recruiters want to be connected with. They'll accept your connection request. I'll click connect. I'm going to add a note, and I'm going to say, hi, Ashley. It's always great to be connected with recruiters in Austin. Let's connect. Thanks. And I'm going to hit that send an invitation, but I'm going to copy it first. I'm going to put it in my copy buffer. I don't know why I didn't I'll just send the invitation. You don't even have to put a note for recruiters. If you want to do it really quick, you can just go through and connect with them. Connect, right? Just connect. Send them a connection request. So you could sit down, and what'll happen is when you start connecting with a bunch of people, eventually it'll start asking you for their email address after you send out so many. The first couple of times, just ignore it. But when it just consistently starts asking for email addresses, just do whatever you did that you were going to reward yourself because you sent out a bunch of connection requests today, and they will accept your connection request. So go connect with a bunch of recruiters. The other thing you can do is you can go search for hiring managers. So if you're in the IT world, you can say IT director and apply. I got 788, so here we go. Click, 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 click. I'm going to go connect with a bunch of them, right? Now what happens is when they accept my connection request, they'll show up right here. I click on network, right? And I can begin to see, and it'll send me email messages and the rest, and I can see the people who are trying to connect with me. I can see the people who have accepted my connection request. I guess I've already accepted all those. And just know that a lot of times the people who you're connecting with, they won't see your note anyway, because right here, I got this gentleman who was kind enough, notice to mention recruiting for roles in Austin. You know, usually I don't, sometimes I'll click see more, but sometimes people don't. A lot of times they'll just click accept. So just send a bunch of connection requests and you will come up higher in people's search results. But then when you see them reconnect with you, right, what happens is when they reconnect with you, you will have their contact information. Let me show you where that's at. I'll just go to Scott. It's a friend of mine. And there's contact info. Got it right here. There's his email address. And now I can email him. And I probably got some kind of a pat email thing that if I don't know specifically, I'll have my generic one that's going to be, hey, Scott, I'm a IT system administrator and whatever it is here in Austin, Texas, just doing a little bit of networking. You know, I like to solve these kinds of problems or whatever it is. You know, when the time is right, I would welcome a conversation with you. Thanks so much. Boom, launch. And so everybody that connects with you, I'm going to send them that message. Now, I could message people through LinkedIn, but here's the deal. You'll get much better response rate and a lot more attention if you go direct to their email as opposed to messaging here. LinkedIn sends out so much spam that a lot of people filter all messages from LinkedIn into somewhere where they don't pay any attention to it, so it doesn't come in their box. So by sending a message here, most people don't come to LinkedIn every day. Your response rate and read rate and everything else is so much lower when you send a message in LinkedIn to a lot of people, maybe to recruiters, but it's so much better. If you got their email address, particularly their work email address, send them a message there, right? So do that with every single person who you're connecting with. Now, so there's this period of time. So what's happening is, you know, prior to approval to hire, they were just scrambling on, you know, they were trying to figure out what's going on. And so what's going to happen is that if you identify enough recruiters and you identify enough hiring managers, let's just look at the statistics. The statistics are this, that if we'll just use IT as an example. If you're transitioning IT and you're looking at, you know, kind of early stage IT opportunities as a junior system administrator, help desk, or whatever they are, you know, there's a lot of turnover in those roles. I mean, 2-3 years is a lot. So that means that if it's 2 years, then 50% of everybody's turning over every year. If it's every 3 years, it's what, 33%, a third. If you divide that over the course of a year, and you say that, you know, 33% of everybody in this particular role is changing jobs at any given time, then what is that, about 3% per month, right? And so what happens is that period of time between when a hiring manager recognizes that they need to make a hire and when they actually make a hire is usually 3 or 4 months. So during that period of time, 3, 6, 9, 12% of the population of people who do the kind of work that you do will have been active on the job market. That means that, you know, that many of them are changing jobs. So that means that many hiring managers are hiring. So at any given time, there's about 10 to 15% of all hiring managers for IT related roles who are either hiring now or hiring in the very near future. So when you go back to LinkedIn and you looked at the search that I did, that came up with IT directors. Where's that? Maybe it was this one. I don't remember. But we came up with 788. So if you do the math on IT directors, just at that level, 788, if we're saying that, 10 to 15% of them at any given time are either hiring or know that they're about to, that means there's what, 78, almost 100 of them. So right now, out of that set of 788 people, there are probably nearly 100 of them who are interested in talking to people because they're about to have to fill a job. So, if you reach out to 70 of them, 10 of them are probably interested in talking to people like right now. So just know that. And no one else is doing this. No one else is reaching out to them. No one else is doing this kind of work. And lots of people reach out to recruiters, but what happens is when you reach out to the hiring managers, or you reach out to the hiring managers' bosses, and you reach out to the COO, and you kind of go a level up, then, when you reach out to the hiring manager's boss, then their boss essentially says, hey, this person reached out to me, take a look. And they email it over to them, and it gets their attention, right? It gets their attention. So here's what I know. If you just apply for a job online and you wait and you wait and you follow the rules or what have you, you're not doing what it takes to get yourself to the front of the line. I mean, you're doing what everybody else does, which means, you're on a cattle call and you get the results of that. So maybe take a little bit of a different strategy, maybe execute an effective job search and go find people and go reach out to people and go to market with the whole idea of finding some people that you can help. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Here's another way, if you want to take a little bit more targeted approach to what it is you're doing. I mean, and I'll pause here and take a question, but or two or three or four. But what I'm going to show you now is so what I was just saying is that connect with recruiters and connect with hiring managers. When they connect, send them a generic message over. I'm not suggesting you campaign them or bug them or anything else. It's just like, hey, thanks so much for your connection. I'm a this and a that. I solve these kinds of problems. This is what motivates me. When the time is right, I would welcome a conversation about how I might be able to make a difference in your company or whatever makes sense for you, right? Say it whatever way makes sense for you. But I'm about to show you how you can do a more targeted approach than that because because you may want to take a more targeted approach. But before we do that, Mayan, what do we got? Anything we should talk about right now or address or questions or anything?
We have a couple, just kind of highlighting what you've been going through.
Okay.
A good question that came up was, if a job is posted, does it A, mean that it's approved, and B, should it also mean that the job posting should show what the compensation range is? And
Oh, okay. And
that's
what?
the first part.
Okay, cool. Let's do that first part first. So the answer is, when you say, can we make this assumption about a job when we see it's posted? The answer is everything is happening. Or are they out there just fishing for resumes? Yeah. Do they already know who they're going to hire and they're just posting anyway? Yeah. Is this a real job? No. Right? I mean, did they forget to take it down? Yeah. So everything that you can imagine is happening, and the reason why is because there's millions and millions and millions of jobs. So what's the odds that anything that you can imagine is happening? Well, in fact, everything that you can imagine is happening. So the only hopeful assumption you can make is that there's a person who needs your help. That's the only assumption that you can make, because since you won't know for sure, then every other assumption you make is less useful than that and doesn't do you any good. So just assume that, well, there's a person who's out there who needs my help, and this is the kind of stuff that I can do. I've got the fire extinguisher, I've got the tools, I've got the ability. I need to reach out to that person. I need to go find them. They're desperate. They need me. So that was that part. With respect to compensation, here's the thing that's a big myth. People believe that companies have this set, compensation up front. Some do, but I'm here to tell you that anytime somebody's telling me what, just recently, one of my clients opened up a event coordinator role. They're looking at paying $80,000 a year. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to present people over who are making 105 too, because they'll fall in love with somebody and they'll change the budget. So, one, there isn't always a budget for a job. There isn't always a set amount, and it doesn't really work that way. Now there's some jobs that do, but most of the time I don't think it will be posted. I would never put the comp notions on a job post that I'm putting out there because it varies so much. Because what happens is that it always starts with this, job descriptions start with this laundry list, which is a wish list of stuff. And they start with the notion of kind of this minimum budget that they think they can get away with in general. They can't find anybody for that budget. It remains posted out there and nobody changed the budget. They can't find anybody. They're going to have to increase the budget. So yeah, I wouldn't put much faith into that. And the other thing that I really wouldn't put faith into is, let's go look at this one. So by the way, this number put here by, I guess, is this Indeed actually hiring? Maybe. But here's what I can tell you about all of the salary stuff out there. Like, don't pay much attention to it. It kind of doesn't really matter. A lot of them, what you'll see is there, look at that range. That's huge, right? I can't believe they put that on there. I'm trying to show you one that like shows you, some of them show you kind of stuff in general about what jobs like this pay. Let me try one more time, see if it's down here. Try one more time over here. Oh, here we go. See this stuff down here, typical pay for this kind of work? I'd really not pay attention to it. One is typical pay. If you know statistics of this range, this tells me they have no clue. They have no clue. This tells you nothing whatsoever. And so the thing about any things like this that come up, most of the information they have is from government jobs. I mean, have you ever told them what you make? And the people who do tell them what you make, how many people put in something silly and they're just being ridiculous, right? So that information is notoriously inaccurate and I wouldn't pay much attention to it, quite frankly. Yeah, so don't pay too much attention to it. Here's the deal with compensation. Know what matters to you, know at what point you'd be happy and satisfied, and go to market and know that that's what it is that you're going out there to do. And I wouldn't expect compensation to be posted on jobs. And if it is, just know that it sometimes can be a lot greater than that. So did I answer that question?
I think you did.
Okay.
Um, in regards to jobs that you've applied to, what if you applied to one that you knew fit the bill, got no word from the company, but the job is reposted a few months later? How do you reapply, even though you didn't hear from them the first time, knowing that you fit all the criteria and the skills that they're looking for?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So kind of going back to if I try to summarize everything that I've been trying to talk to you about in this as the answer to that is, and hear me the correct way, I'm not saying don't apply for a job, but I wouldn't have applied for it in the first place. Your answer is find the hiring manager, find the recruiters, go reach out to some people and skip that whole process. So that's the real answer. That's the more effective answer. And I know maybe it's a big company, it's really hard. So the answer is sure, why not? I mean, absolutely apply for it again. They didn't pay any attention. It's one of those things where I think people want to believe that somebody actually paid attention to their resume. They didn't. So what happened was when you applied the first time, your words didn't match, you got filtered out by the applicant tracking system. Maybe that's what happened. Or somebody looked at your profile, they were really busy, it got marked as read, but they didn't really read it and they moved on to the next thing because they came back after lunch and it was marked as read and they moved on. Somebody looked at it, but they never got back. I mean, you have no idea what happened. And statistically, no one even looked at your resume statistically. So yeah, apply again and go through the whole thing. But I would suggest that your answer isn't going to be through applying because you're applying at the end of the line. The line's long. The people along the way are there to screen you out, not to help you out. And everybody is in the way between you and getting to the hiring manager. So everything you can do to shorten that gap and to go direct, you're doing yourself a favor. So yeah, reapply for the job, but also really reach out to the people who are doing the kind of stuff and become a human being, not a resume.
Great.
What else you
And
got?
one last question before
Yeah.
we move on. We're talking about connecting with people on LinkedIn and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a lot better to meet in person with, say, if LinkedIn, I guess LinkedIn does these Mill City meetups, meeting them in person instead of going the, I guess, virtual route. What are your thoughts on that?
I suppose it happens. I've never hired anybody from one of those. I don't know anybody who's ever. So, I guess it happens sometime, but it takes a whole lot of time to go do it. So, if I was going to suggest that you drive somewhere, you go to one of the things, you spend an hour and a half there, and you drive home and you spend all that time, you could have reached out to so many more people online than that. So I think that the answer is it feels good to go communicate with other people and stuff like that. So go to the event, just don't expect to find a job there. You might, but it's probably not a very effective job search strategy, but it probably is a go connect with other fellow human beings. I mean, why not go do that? But I mean, you never know. I mean, it happens, but for the effectiveness of it, if you look at the time, let's just say from a business development perspective, I stopped going to those things a really long time ago because very little ever actually comes from it. And there's somebody out there who's probably fuming at me right now. But yeah, I go to them for different reasons. I go to them because I want to go and it's a social event and go meet some people, and you never know. But I wouldn't bank on it. If I said, here's the deal, if we all were betting and we were betting on, I'm going to bet $1,000 on the group of 1,000 people who are going to networking events like in person, and the 1,000 people who are reaching out to people like I'm talking to online. And in a month from now, we're going to measure how many people got hired. I know which team I'm putting my $1,000 on. It isn't the people who spend all their time going to the in-person networking events. They may have had more fun, and it's not as much work, but that's not who got hired. Now, let me be clear. I'm talking statistics. If we had 1,000 people who went to these networking events, I'm sure a few of them did. I'm sure that they did, but I'm just saying what percentage of them did. So maybe that's your avenue. You never know. People get hired that way, but the likelihood isn't super high. All right. What else? Are we good?
All right, go for it. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. We got we're doing great on time. So here's what we're going to do. Let's talk about how to target your search a little bit more. Let's talk about how to identify target companies. And by the way, I'm just curious, what would make a company a good target company for you? Man, type that in. I want to know. What would make a company a good target company for you? In other words, in your effective job search, how would you identify a company that makes sense for you to try to target that company and find people in that company? What would make sense?
Some of the answers coming in as socially responsible,
Okay,
innovative, short
right,
commute,
right,
develops people.
right.
See what else we have coming in here. A company that is financially stable and successful.
Uh-huh,
Good positive culture, Fortune
uh-huh,
500, common interest,
right.
positive employee feedback, team oriented,
Yeah,
where I can make a difference and affect culture.
awesome.
Um, the list can go on. Great diversity,
Yeah, right.
promotion.
So here's the thing, here's the pattern in all of those things, which is that is a great list with regard to the kind of company that you actually want to work for and the kind of company you might select to work for, but it has almost nothing to do with what the type of company, what you would do to target companies in terms of your job search. Because here's the thing, you don't know whether they have a good culture. You don't know any of those kinds of things until you really start interviewing with them. And what you can do is you can spend, I think people, and I go to job clubs sometimes, spend way too much time trying to investigate companies and see what's a good company to work for or whatever, because you can spend a bunch of time on doing that, but if you can't get somebody to engage in a conversation with you, you just wasted every single bit of your time, right? And oh, by the way, I would be doing the world a favor if I was able to take Glassdoor offline. Really, I'd suggest you just don't go there. But if you do, take it with a massive grain of salt. And here's the reason why. I know great companies that have horrible reviews from people they probably should be in prison because yeah, it was really ugly situation, right? So I know great companies that have bad reviews because of bad actors who went and did that, or some of their competitors went and did it. I know companies that have great reviews because their marketing manager gets a big bonus if they have good numbers, and he's got a company in India that writes fake ones, right? So all of that stuff happens. So take it with a massive grain of salt, right? Massive grain of salt with regard to anything. The other thing that's important to know about Glassdoor is that companies can't update their own profile or anything like that unless they spend at least $6,000 a year, and most small small companies can't do it. So my point is that everything you can learn about companies online, one, you never know, and two, you can figure out all kinds of stuff about the companies you really like to work for, but if you don't get to have a conversation with somebody, you just wasted your time. So here's what you can do. Um, Here's my suggestion for if I was wanting to run an effective job search and I wanted to find target companies are companies who have the kinds of problems that I solve. That's it. For a job search, it's the kind of companies that have the kinds of problems that I solve, because if they don't have the kinds of problems that I solve, then they're never going to hire me. So the easiest way to do that is find companies who already have people on board who do what you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to all filters, and if I'm looking for help desk job, I'm going to say help desk, and in the title field down here, I'm going to look for people who are on help desk, and I'm going to look for them in Austin. Actually, let's change locations. Let's go to Chicago. My network's not as big in Chicago, but I got one. Only people who are in my first, second, or third level network will come up in this result. So I got 1,413 people who are help desk. So now what I can do is now I'm going to make a list of companies. Well, the Salvation Army has those kinds of problems. Innova has those kinds of problems. Mead and Hunt, I'm going to write all these down, right? Gresham, right? Shopper Track has problems. Combined Insurance Company has them. V3 Companies has them. I would have to click on this one to see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of these. Boeing has those, Smart Text, AT&T, Travel Click, Spins, Vision, why can't I talk? 96, right? So I'm going to go make a list of companies that hire the kinds of people that I do. I'm not going to bother to research those companies, because unless they're willing to have a conversation with me, it doesn't matter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick one of them. I'm going to say Vision 96. And so I'm going to go back to my search. I'm going to say Vision 96. I'm going to go to all filters. I'm going to go to Chicago. Chicago. There we go. I'm going to go down to this company name. Actually, I'm going to say current companies. Vision 96. And I'm just going to run just this search and see how many people are actually there. I got 11. It's a small company. So there it is. I could reach out to Cindy. I got a director of technology services. I can connect with Jonathan, right? I can connect with all these people, because what I know is they have help desk technicians, and that's what I do. So if I'm going to reach out to a company, they have the kinds of problems that I solve, I'll go reach out to these people. And so I'm going to make a whole list of companies who already hire people who do the things that I do, because here's what I know. Right now, at least 10% of them either know that they're going to be hiring somebody in the near future or are trying to right now. And so if I go reach out to them, then if I reach out to 100 people, at least 10 of them are in companies who are probably trying to hire now or really, really soon. So I'm going to connect with as many people as I can who are either the hiring manager or a peer or somebody in HR in all of these companies that are in this list of where this, what was it, 1,700 people, 1,800 people, or whatever it is, or 1,400 people, right? So that's probably the most effective way to target it. And people always want to say, well, how do I know if they're hiring? Well, you don't. I mean, you don't. I mean, don't worry about it. I mean, that's not a question you should even ask. I mean, all you're doing is reaching out to people, getting their sending connection request. When they connect, you're getting their email address. You know the email address for everybody. And so now you're going to pick a handful of them and you're going to send your email message over to them that says, hey, hi, my name's Gary O'Neill. I'm a system, I'm a help desk specialist and a, Microsoft, certified this, right? I got my little speech that I'm going to give. I'm just doing a little bit of networking. When the time is right, I would welcome a conversation to explore how I might be able to help you and your company achieve its goals. Bam, bam. And so it's a matter, at some point, it becomes a numbers game, because if I reach out to one person, nothing's happening. I mean, nothing's happening. As a recruiter, I mean, for each job that we're working on, we probably reach out to 250, 300 people. And what happens is that the majority of them are non-responsive. And so what we don't do is we don't open people's profiles. We don't bother to look. We don't try to see whether they're qualified. All I want to know is if they're interested. And so what I'll do is I'll run a search like that and find the set of people who might be interested. I send a connection request to them, then I send them a campaign out to them, and a fraction of them are going to say, hey, yeah, I'm interested. And now once they've responded, now I bother to go look at their background and see whether or not I actually want to have a meaningful conversation with them. If so, I invite them to a meaningful conversation. If not, I say, hey, Anna, thanks so much for your response. Tell you what, I really do appreciate that. We might be looking to hire somebody someday, and I would, welcome a conversation with you. Thanks so much. And so that's exactly what you do, right? You just take, this is all about taking recruiting strategy and just work it the other way around, because recruiting is really nothing more than reaching out to find people who can help and make a difference in their life and their career. So you can identify target companies, you can identify the champions, the hiring managers, the peers, the people who are in HR, and then you execute your communication campaign. And that, I promise you, if you identify a bunch of people and you're sending out 600 messages over the next couple of weeks, something great is happening. Again, if you had $1,000, and it's my $1,000, but I'll give it to you. I'm giving you $1,000 right now, and you have to place that as a bet on either the team of people who are applying for jobs and waiting for let's say we're going to run this for 3 months. It's 1,000 people who are looking for jobs. You can bet on either the team of people who are applying for jobs and waiting, or the team of people who are not applying for any jobs, but they're finding companies who already have employees who are in jobs that are the kind of jobs that make sense for them. They're connecting with people and they're sending out an email campaign. Which team are you betting the $1,000 on? Which team? I mean, the answer is pretty easy for me. I know which team is going to have more people hired out of it. So if that's the team that you would bet on, then why not use that strategy, right? So we already talked about that. They have the kinds of problems that you solve is really what makes it a good target company. We've already talked about this. You want to look for recruiters and HR people, hiring managers and peers, find them on LinkedIn, connect and send them an email message. Execute a campaign, know ahead of time how you're going to approach each type of connection, essentially what your email is going to be, know what your email and your phone strategy is. And I suggest at least 3 touches, right? So put them in a spreadsheet, however you're going to track them, 3 touches. Because the first time, what's going to happen is the first time you reach out to people, they're really busy and they meant to get back to you. They just forgot they were busy. Second time you reach out to them, maybe. Third time you reach out to them is the takeaway close. It's the message that I have in there. It's just like, hey, this is the last time I'm going to reach out to you. You just might get a message that says, oh, so sorry. I've been meaning to get back to you. Right? For in that fleeting moment, you actually have their attention and you actually have the upper hand in that moment because they just apologized to you. So execute a campaign, and you're not looking for a job. Execute a campaign to go find some people who you can help. Makes it a whole lot easier to go do it. And recognize that each one of these people doesn't know that you're sending out 100 messages. They just feel like for the right person, serendipity just happened. My name's Gary O'Neill. I'm a certified network administrator and IT security specialist. I help companies get the most out of their computing investments. I'm networking to see if you might know anybody who'd be interested in talking with me about how I can solve networking, desktop support, and IT security issues. Thanks so much. If it's a company I really care about, I'm going to open that up in the middle and say, hey, I see that your company does these kinds of things. I think that's wildly interesting and super motivating to me. I would welcome a conversation, so, you can open it up if you want to spend a little bit more time on doing it. Slows you down a little bit, but it's a classic trade-off. So there's 3 messages here that I have, for you in terms of just, the general feeling of the messages that I would send out. I'm hesitant to give you kind of a template because it needs to come from you, right? It needs to come from you, not from me, but it needs to come from you. So here's the deal. So this is the way that it works. So at any given time, there's months in which somebody needs are gonna hire people. By the time the job is open, it's highly competitive. There's lots of people in line. Before, when it's a hidden job, they got approval. This is really ideal. They have a little bit more time to deal with. There isn't a line yet, and you can find them this way. And then future jobs when they know they're going to hire, but they just don't have approval yet. And the good news is you use the exact same strategy on every single one. The only difference is open jobs means that you know the name of a company specifically, and you have a notion that they've actually got a job open. The odds are pretty good that if you reach out to 100 people, that 10 or 15 of them are in this space anyway. So just reach out to people. So here's the deal. Get to the front of the line in this whole session, if I haven't made any other point, which is the process that's in place isn't there to help you. The process and the recruiting process that's in place is to help the HR professionals and the recruiters not die because of the onslaught of what it is they have to deal with. So if you reach out to hiring managers, you go out to market, you find people who you can help, then things will go much better. And all the actions at the front of the line, that's where all the decisions are made. So everything else is in your way. So if you get to the front of the line, that's how you get hired. All right. So there we got it, Mayan. We got 1 minute or a couple of minutes.
Great. Yeah, I know we're at the top of the hour, but
Yeah.
maybe a couple of minutes
Yeah,
to
sure.
answer some questions that came in.
Of course.
One question that came in was, what is the proper way or process rather
Yeah,
to apply for two jobs that are at the same company but in the similar skill set that you have? For example, there are two jobs. One is for network security and the other is a active directory security engineer. I
sure.
have experience for both. Should I
Yeah.
apply for both?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you should. So the only suggestion I have is, some really large companies will be ridiculous and have 20 more or less of super similar jobs. Pick three. Yeah, I would, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just yes, I would definitely apply for both of those, and then I would go find the people I would execute the rest of the strategy too. But yes, absolutely. The only thing to not do is apply for a bunch of jobs that are radically different from one another. That just makes you look like you don't have a clue.
Great. Another question that came in is, as someone who's new in IT,
Uh-huh.
would you say taking an entry level position to get some experience is better, or would you suggest applying for a specific job that is in line with what your career goal or direction is?
So here's what I really suggest, which is have a clear understanding of your career map and the steps that you're trying to take. And, sometimes it really makes sense so certainly try to go for the jobs that make more sense. But if it turns out that there's an entry level job with a really great company and a really great set of people where you can learn, then take that. So I think the answer is all of the above, right? Work all of the above. And the objective in your job search is not to get an offer. Your objective is to get multiple offers that you have to choose from. So, execute all avenues. A sidebar comment is people pay too much attention to W-2 earnings and not enough attention to the team and the asset value of what it is that you're going to learn. If you look at from a pure financial perspective, the people in their careers who make the most money, it has to do with what's the team of the people they join and what's the company that they join, not the job that they took. Care more about the people who you're going to work with than the company or the job, right? So go learn some stuff. Go find some people who you can learn from. That will help you more than anything else. But execute all of the above strategies and, go get multiple job offers and pick the one that's going to help you get to the next step in your career the quickest and easiest with the people who you want to actually be around.
Great. Another quick question that came in is, I get contacted all the time to connect with a career coach that guarantees a job offer, and the average cost is around $900 a month. Do you recommend this route at any time during a job search?
I'm sure that it's effective for some people sometime. I see people get scammed paying thousands and thousands of dollars. Here's my advice, on that one, which is, be careful of whose advice that you take. So there's a lot of people dispensing advice in and around jobs and job search and all that kind of stuff. And I'd ask myself this question, which is, have they ever been a hiring manager? I mean, how many people have they ever hired? Have they been on that side of the equation? And have they ever made their living because companies hire people? So, I mean, if you look at, that set of us who actually make our living not only because that, but we were in the inside as a hiring manager and we understand how the game is played and somebody who knows the game from both the inside and the outside, they might really be able to help you. Then again, a lot of the people I know who could really help you in that regard, they make a lot more money as recruiters. So, just go in with a little bit of caution. It's not super common. So some career coaches are really, really, really great. And just like all roles, most of them aren't. And if it were me, the way I would pick one is, have they ever made their living either recruiting or hiring, and have they ever been a part of that? Because there are a whole lot of people who are career coaches who haven't ever really done either one. They're really well-intentioned people, but they don't necessarily know how the game is played. I especially find that with regard to resume writers. They think that making a resume look pretty and unique and all these pie charts and stuff like that, they look horrible in applicant tracking systems. They score terribly. We know as recruiters that you didn't write it yourself, right? So just go with a little bit of caution and know the person and know that they have experience from the inside, right? So that would be my suggestion. The right person could potentially help a lot.
Great. I know we're already over our time lot, and there's so many questions. We always get great questions for you, Gary. I do encourage you to reach out to your New Horizons career consultant if you have any other questions, or just to touch base and see how they can help you achieve any of your employment objectives and goals. As a reminder, if you do not currently have a career consultant, you can log on to our website at newhorizons.com and do a zip code search to find the center that's nearest you, and then they can connect you with someone. Our webinar schedule is also up to date on our website. Like we were mentioning a few of Gary's other sessions, leveraging LinkedIn and resumes that rock. Those are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So visit newhorizons.com and click on the webinars link to see when they are and to register. He has great information in those upcoming sessions as well. You can also find any archive of our recordings as well there. Remember, these are free to you, so please take advantage of these sessions where you can learn the latest tips and tricks as well on your job search. Again, another friendly reminder, we'll be sending out this archive recording link later today for you to review today's webinar, or if you know someone who can benefit from some of this information, you could pass that on to them as well. That will wrap up today's session, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Gary, as always, for presenting
You're
on
welcome.
this topic.
Thank you, everyone. I'm honored that you let me be in part of your day. So thanks so much. Take care.
That will conclude today's webinar, and you may now all log off. Thank you.